Well met. 'Tis the season when each and every single biological process in your body is specifically conditioned for weight gain. And you're trying to diet. Why would you do that? But more importantly, why would you do that? Okay, the truth is there's any number of reasons why you might be attempting to diet during the holidays, whether you're actually trying to lose weight or whether you're just trying to maintain your physique or moderate your intake. The question is, why would you? But seriously, the real question is, how do you survive the Christmas zone? And personally, I don't know any better way to survive a Christmas zone than by examining some of the greatest and most classic Christmas zones of all time. In this video, I hope to help you avoid a lot of the mental pitfalls that I see people fall into during this particular time of season, as well as, of course, revisit some of my favorite Christmas-inspired levels ever. If even so much as a single one of you says, Rance, these aren't technically Christmas zones, they're actually winter zones, I swear by all that I hold dear, I will reply to you with yes, you are correct. I'm Mulatto Rance, this is Muscle and Magica, and you, my friend, just accepted a quest. I think we can all agree that if there's one thing that winter Christmas zones are not, it's easy. And in fact, I think the reason we tend to love them so much, aside from the gorgeous visuals and the downright life-changing music, is that they tend to offer very unique challenges and mechanics outside of what you'd expect from a normal zone, while still being incredibly enjoyable, oftentimes some of the most fun levels in video games. I mean, look at Sonic, he had so much fun in the snow, he said to hell with it, I'm just gonna keep on doing winter stuff, with or without the snow. I don't know if he knows how bad that is for the snowboard, but I am confident he does not care. Now to me, the most telling sign that you're in a winter zone, besides a sign telling you you're in a winter zone, is when you inevitably start slipping and sliding all over the place, because apparently when the ground is covered in ice, it makes it very difficult to get any kind of traction. Which, coincidentally, is not an uncommon experience among dieters in the holiday season. I mean, it's hard enough to maintain a caloric deficit when people aren't constantly asking you to come to parties and consume copious amounts of sugar cookies and eggnog, and insist that you fight the same 3 tired copies of the exact same Pokemon, because apparently there are no schools in this place to teach people about variety and team balance. But the fact is, a lot of people enter into the holiday season already not adhering to their diets or their workout plans. And the added stress of all the social events and the pervasive calorie-laden foods only exacerbates an already bad situation. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're having adherence issues, there's a number of things that could be going on. Your diet might be too restrictive. You might be running too steep a deficit. You might be keeping trigger foods around and you just need to limit your access to those sweet, succulent jiggies. But if you're having serious and consistent binge episodes, chances are that there's some dissatisfaction or unfulfillment somewhere else in your life that we need to sit down and take a look at first. And unfortunately, while I am bereft of the ability to address these very context-sensitive issues in this very general video, I do have some general advice if you find yourself sliding across the slippery slopes of habitual non-adherence, whether it's diet-related, gym-related, or something else entirely. And that is this: you need to stick to your plan for just one day. Because here's the thing, cheating on your diet, just like the bench press, or playing video games, or anything you do really, is a learned behavior and a skill. And the more you practice a skill, the better you get at it. And right now, you have essentially trained yourself to be a world-class champion diet deviator. Now, I hate to break it to you, but typically the best way to stop sliding in the absence of some kind of special boot is just to run headlong into a stationary object of some sort. In other words, just do it. Once. Dig your heels in, slam your face into a boulder or a cave wall if you have to, and come to a full stop so you can orient yourself in a new direction. Mentally, you will be showing yourself that it is actually entirely possible. And physiologically, you will be breaking the chain of endless, thoughtless sliding, starting a new habit, and then in subsequent days, reinforcing and training the skill that you want to cultivate. And guess what? The more you do it, the more your brain just converts it into a subconscious behavior because it doesn't want to spend unnecessary energy thinking about things. So before you know it, adhering to your plan becomes second nature again. That's weird. It's almost as if I was repressing some experience that was far too terrible and traumatic for me to remember. Anyway, I don't know about you, but nothing gets me in the holiday spirit like taking the most hazardous and ill-advised driving conditions imaginable and racing in them. I don't care if it's on a shield, in a cart, shapeshifted into a walrus. I'm sorry, what was that last one? In a cart. Seriously, what is our fixation with competing against Arctic animals in their natural environment? Look, I'm only gonna say this once. When you enter into a contract with a gigantic anthropomorphic talking penguin, and I'm seriously considering just ending the sentence there, who wants you to toboggan him, which may I remind you is what penguins are best at, over the very precipice of hell, you've just proven that you can't be trusted to make rational decisions. But I'm actually not talking about racing in the standard sense, where we're against against other people, or anthropomorphic talking penguins for that matter. I'm really talking about the time trials or solo runs where we're racing against ourselves under some frankly unnecessary and entirely fabricated timeline that's only being imposed on us by our own selves. We allow ourselves to get so freaked out by these arbitrary time frames that we set for ourselves. We have to be shredded by X month, but since we're behind the 8 ball, we deprive ourselves during what should be a season of family and fun. Or maybe we were supposed to be 10 pounds heavier by January 1st. So, in order to make sure we end the bulk on schedule, we do the only reasonable thing and shove as much fruitcake down our fruitcake holes as humanly possible, ultimately making our goal weight with a solid ½ pound of muscle, 9.5 pounds of fat, and a lifetime of questions and regret, because fruitcake is not good, so why do I keep eating it? You need to understand that when Sonic said you gotta go fast, he wasn't talking about you! He was using the understood form of you, and yes, maybe he needs to be a little more clear about his pronouns in the future, but the sooner we stop focusing on getting from point A to point B as quickly as possible, and start focusing on getting from point A to point B in a way that's sustainable, so that we can actually hang out at point B for a while, rather than immediately gaining the 20 pounds back to point A in 1/20th of the time that it took us to get to point B in the first place. And wait a minute, is this the same guy? Oh, my mistake. I should have realized that watching you plummet to your doom wouldn't be nearly enough to satisfy his penguin bloodlust. So now he's followed you here and he's trying to cause a fatal automobile accident. You took a deal with a talking penguin. You knew death was the only way out. But by far the most sinister and odious form of Yuletide recreation to ever darken the doorstep of a fine winter's level has got to be building a snowman. Oh, what, Rance, what problem could you possibly have with the most innocuous and classic of Christmas pastimes? Let me tell you something. If you went out into the snow as a child, not a care in the world, just a boy with a dream, really. A simple dream to create a snowman, the kind of snowman you see in picture books or Hallmark movies. But then you inadvertently brought life to this thing, you would have some issues too. But what I'd really like to draw your attention to is the striking degree of visual similarity between building a snowman and the Sisyphean rock, which is often used as a metaphor to describe situations where you're putting inordinate amounts of energy into completely futile tasks. Which it turns out is exactly what you do when you build a snowman. I mean, you know full well the thing is gonna melt within the week and probably get peed on within the day, yet you go on to delegate absurd amounts of time and energy into testing to see if the snow is the right texture, making sure there are no leaves. And if you manage to get his proportions exactly right, then maybe, just maybe, he might give you a piece of furniture made in his image. So that way you can have his cold, lifeless face staring comfortably at you while you sleep. Or do anything, really, because at this point, he sees everything. But I think you get the point. Ideally, you want to spend as little time as possible over the holidays focusing on the minutia of macros and weigh-ins, and instead focus on the things that really matter, like time spent with your family, or making sure to stock up on Sugar Cookie Toast Crunch before it disappears for another 3 years, only to be replaced by some half-assed attempt to appease us for inexcusably discontinuing what was pants down the greatest Christmas cereal of all time. And look, if your physique goals are important to you, of course there are measures you can implement, like fasting early on in the day if you know there's going to be a big meal later, drinking a protein shake before you eat, limiting your first plate to nothing but lean protein and fibrous veggies so that you're less likely to overconsume when you do get to the calorie-dense stuff. And as counterintuitive as this might be sounding to you right now, I think you'll find that being intentional about putting the focus on your family will actually help you to stay on track. Because eating a communal meal, taking the time in between bites to make conversation, pay compliments about the various dishes, actually thoroughly enjoy the experience of eating, is naturally going to force you to slow down so that some of your satiety signals might even have a chance to reach your brain before you've wolfed down 3 plates. And I can tell you that as someone who's concerned with his own physique and also his status as a Templar of fitness amongst friends and family, I actually find myself considerably less likely to overdo it when I'm in the presence of other people. As a final note, I've often noticed that many of the mobs you encounter in winter zones tend to be just slightly larger or reskinned versions of mobs you've already seen in other areas of the game, which means you don't necessarily have to change your strategy or your tactics that much. What you really need is just to get more members in your party, which is why I recommend that you find a friend or a fellow adventurer who can hold you accountable, especially during the holiday season. And that way, together, you can take down enemies that may have been too strong to solo. And hey, I don't know, maybe even send them this video.